I've been dating a 5-year-old boyfriend for 2 years. Ethan is arrogant and loves to act out. And he would always lose his temper with me every now and then. Because of his pretty face, I always coaxed him first and let him have his way. When Ethan asked me to break up with him for the 9th time, I agreed. But he panicked. His wolf pup eyes scarlet. Babe. I don't want to. Rebound. Is fine. You coax me again. Rose weaving romantic dream. Chase to see rose romantic meaning endless. The romance of the road will not stop. Be sure to like, comment, forward, follow, open the small bell. Beautiful drama on time to embrace. The night is boundless, leaving only scattered starlight. I looked up from the computer screen. It was already 11 o'clock. Rubbing my brow, I closed the computer and prepared to go home. I had just fired up the car when Ethan's call came through. I raised an eyebrow, not expecting him, who was still in silent treatment, to take the initiative to call me. When I answered it, I heard a not-so-familiar male voice. Is this Sister Lightran? I reacted before I realized it was Ethan's bandmate's voice. It's me. What's wrong with Ethan? Brother, you is drunk? He's shouting your name and refuses to come with us. Is it convenient for you to come over? Got it. Wait for me for 10 minutes. The company is quite close to the bar where Ethan is. When I drove there, the time was stuck at 11:30. I squinted my somewhat tired eyes, just wanting to quickly pick Ethan up and take him home before having a good rest. What I didn't expect to see when I pushed open the door to the booth was the drunk guy on the phone leaning over to a girl. His teammate alerted me to my arrival before Ethan paused and looked my way. The girl he was blocking out quickly ran out with a pout towards me and explained. Ran. Ethan went crazy and came over to me. I'm not related to him at all. I have nothing to do with him. You can't hate me if you hate him. Olivia. The drummer of Ethan's band. We've met many times and we're quite close. I know. I laughed at her and patted her shoulder. I knew this was something Ethan was doing on purpose to show me that he was still mad at me for taking on a project with my ex-boyfriend against his wishes. But this was a company arrangement. And if this project was completed successfully, my resume and position would be enhanced. So there was no way I was going to give up my future for a little bit of personal feelings that had already passed. Ethan glanced my way and with a cold snort sat back down on the couch, drinking to himself. I wrinkled my nose and walked over to snatch the drink out of his hand. Come home with me. The wine was obediently snatched from my hand. But his tone was fierce. Who are you to tell me what to do? I was a little helpless. You don't want me to come? Would you rather go home by yourself? Ethan tilted his head, ignoring me and not looking at me. I compromised. Okay. I'll go then. I turned decisively to leave. And just as I reached the door, there was the sound of a bottle shattering on the ground behind me. When I turned my head, Ethan's feet were still on the coffee table where the empty bottle had been placed. And his eyes were red as he stared at me, like a wolf cub that was full of grievances but refused to talk about them. My heart softened and I walked over to take his hand, softening my tone. Will you come home with me? It took a long time for Ethan to give a squirmy hum. Only then did I have time to look at his stunned teammates. I've got a car. Do you want me to take you back to school? No. No. We'll take a cab back ourselves. Olivia spoke up. And the others hurriedly followed suit. Then we'll go first. I nodded my head and left. Ethan was quite good at letting me hold him and didn't make any more tantrums. Just after closing the door behind me, Ethan, who had been quiet all the way, suddenly sat me down on the entryway in his arms. And before I could react I was gagged on the lips. I have to say, the speed of men's progress in this area is amazing. From the initial youthful ignorance, to the skillful aggression now. I was kissed by him to the point where my waist and eyes were numb. My body was almost half soft. And the strong smell of alcohol from the tip of my nose made my head sink. It was only when his warm hand slid around his waist that he stopped him as if in a dream. Go take a shower. Ethan paused. His eyes were hard to hide his desire, biting my bottom lip in displeasure. After a few soft gasps in my ear, he still went honestly to the bathroom. I was lying on the bed almost asleep when Ethan came out wrapped in a vapor. I half squinted my eyes and looked over, breathing a little heavier, like he was deliberately trying to seduce me. The man in front of me came out with only a towel around his lower body, and the vapor from his body was still wet and slid all the way down his clearly defined six-pack abs and into the depths. Ethan didn't seem to realize it, but he moved towards me with his half-dried wet hair and called out to me softly, "Babe." I tried to suppress the thought of going deeper and took the hairdryer and blew his hair out, watching the wet strands of hair become a little bit fluffy in my hands. I put down the hairdryer. "There you go." Ethan doesn't move, but stares at me with glistening eyes, the corners of his mouth slightly deflated as wine. "Babe, I have a headache." "Who let you drink so much?" He didn't retort, just wrapped his arms around my waist and grunted a few times. "It hurts." I couldn't do anything about it, so I rubbed his temples lightly. After a while, I asked him, "Did it help?" "Uh-huh." Neither of us spoke again after that, and I don't know how long it took, but my hands were slightly sore. Just as I stopped, Ethan arched his furry head towards my neck, and his hands started to get restless. "Goo you." I tried to stop, and the man in my arms started whine again in a resigned tone. "Babe, it's been 3 days and you haven't sent me a single message. I miss you so much. Overtime is too tired." I did not want to agree, but in the end did not resist the temptation. During the conversation, Ethan was biting my earlobe and scratching my back. "Babe." I sighed and compromised. Only once. But I don't remember if he agreed or not. And at some point the lights were turned off and the room floated. The next morning dawned bright and early. I covered the sore waist. Looking at the sleeping face of the insatiable Ethan, did not resist kicking a foot. Ethan didn't even open his eyes, grunted, and wrapped his arms around me again. His voice raspy with early awakening. "Babe, go back to sleep. I thought we agreed it was just one time." Ethan opened his eyes, perhaps sensing the anger in my tone. Knowing I had to work today, I gave him a sidelong glance. Ethan, with the petulance of a newly awakened man, realized that he had gone a little too far last night. Like a cat, he rubbed pleasingly into my hand. Love Babe too much. I hadn't been too mad at him. And seeing him like this, I lost my temper completely. I didn't want to get bored with him anymore, so I broke away and rushed to wash up. When I came out after cleaning up, I saw that the person who was still in bed was already busy in the kitchen. He only put on a pair of pants and came out. I leaned on the door frame. I can see his broad shoulders under the smooth and powerful flow of muscles. Even after being honest with him many times, I couldn't help but gulp. Needless to say, college guy did smell good. I took the breakfast he had prepared for me and hurried to leave. Instead, I caught a glimpse of Ethan with the ends of his eyes drooping. I couldn't help but cringe that I forgot the good morning kiss. I planted a quick kiss on the corner of his mouth. "You be good. That project is over this week. No more anger. Okay? Good." The corner of Ethan's mouth lifted, his eyes shining slightly as he clasped the back of my head and deepened the kiss. I felt something gradually reviving underneath me. And blushing, I hurriedly pushed him away and left the scene, cursing before I left. Sly fox. Ethan swung around behind him laughing. Just for Babe. 5 days later, the project reached a smooth cooperation. This time belongs to the win-win cooperation. The two companies together to discuss the celebration party. Liam and I, as representatives of both companies, had to attend. I reported to Ethan in advance. An hour had passed after a round of drinking and socializing. I took a seat at the table and took a moment to check my cell phone. It wasn't long and Ethan had sent a number of messages. "No talking to him. Don't look at him. When will it be over? I'm coming to pick you up. Okay? I miss Babe." I looked at these, the corners of my eyes inadvertently colored with smiles, and replied one by one. "You can come over to me now. Didn't talk to him. Didn't look at him. I miss you too. Just after replying to the message, a ghostly male voice came from his side. Is the cell phone so good looking? I turned my head. I don't know when the coworker sitting beside me changed to Liam, who unconsciously tilted his head to look my way. I'd installed a peep screen, so presumably he couldn't see anything to ask. I used to be able to say a few words in a businesslike manner when there was cooperation. But now that the cooperation has been reached, I don't really want to pay attention to him. Emily, a colleague next to me, helped me out. Mr. Chen, you don't know. Sister Chen talked about a 5 years younger boyfriend. Together for 2 years. Still inseparable it. Liam was immediately black-faced. But Emily was too young to read faces, and happily shared with him her own daily routine of shipping couples. I don't have much love for sharing my sweet daily life with my ex-boyfriend. So I looked at the time and left first. I'll leave first. You guys eat slowly. Emily's tone became more excited. Going to accompany your boyfriend? I smiled and nodded. Yeah. The kids at home are too clingy. I walked to the entrance of the hotel and realized that Ethan hadn't arrived yet. So I leaned lightly on a pillar and looked at my cell phone. But my wrist was suddenly grabbed by someone and violently brought in one direction. I wore high heels and almost broke my foot. It was hard to stand still. I looked up with that hand, only to realize that the originator was Liam. What was already unpleasant transformed directly into disgust. Liam, what's gotten into you? I tried to break away from the hand, but my grip grew tighter. Let go. Liam ignores it and looks at me with a frown. How come I didn't know you had a boyfriend? Listening to this tone like questioning the object cheating, I was about to be angry and laugh. This person is not sick. Liam, if you're forgetful, I can remind you that we've been broken up for 3 years. Why should I tell you that I have a boyfriend? You don't think I've just been in silent treatment with you for the past 3 years? Do you? Liam froze for a moment, wearing a confused and pained expression. He actually thought that. I couldn't help but wonder just how stupid and lickable I had been in his mind before. But it didn't seem like it. Watching a group of young men and women suddenly arrive at the door, I purposely increased my volume. Liam, I already have a boyfriend. Are you sure you still want to hold on to my hand? Liam was extremely proud of himself, noticing the same look from the others. He quickly let go of his hand. I immediately took 2 steps to the other side, my voice extremely cold. Stay away from me. It's not good if my boyfriend sees it later and gets the wrong idea. Speak of the devil. A black Land Rover stopped right in front of me. The windows fell down. And Ethan, who was wearing sunglasses, looked at me from inside the car. Just by looking at my little friend's pretty face, the frustration caused by Liam dissipated a lot. And I didn't care about someone who was acting like he was lost. I went straight to the passenger side of the car. Ethan left his ass in the car's wake. I fastened my seatbelt and inclined my head to look at him. His lips were pursed and he was radiating low air pressure. A familiar feeling that told me Ethan had lost his temper again. Taking advantage of the stoplight, I reached out to pinch his face to ask what he was mad about. Instead, it was dodged. And he stared flatly ahead, not even looking at me, spitting out only 3 words. I didn't wash my hands. Who was the one who pampered me and asked me to hug him when my hands were covered in mud before? I won't say. I withdrew my hand, knowing in my heart that it was obviously because I saw the scene where Liam and I were pulling at each other. Liam and I opened my mouth to explain, but was interrupted. I don't want to know. I frowned, confused. Ethan was jealous and possessive and I knew it from the beginning. But he never lost his temper this much just because I had contact with the opposite sex. Too many times. Too long. And lately the points we've fought about have almost always been because of Liam. And I don't understand why Ethan is so bothered by his presence that he'll explode at any time even if I'm in the same space as him. As soon as we got home, Ethan locked himself in the 2nd bedroom and sulked. And I couldn't even coax him to do anything about it. There was no other way. So I waited a while, pressed out the hand sanitizer into a lather and wrapped my hands completely around them. Then exclaimed into the air. Ah. Within 3 seconds, I heard the door open next door and Ethan's panicked footsteps. I didn't miss the worry in the man's eyes and his exasperation when he scanned me up and down and realized he'd been tricked. He turned to leave again. And I chilled my voice. Stop. I'll never coax you again. Ethan looked at me in surprise. His eyes red with anger. But he didn't walk away again. I sighed in relief and held up my foam-stained hand in front of his eyes. My tone commanding. Don't you think you're dirty? Come over here and wash yourself until you feel clean. This time Ethan didn't refuse. Walked behind me. Circled me in an absolutely possessive posture. Rested his chin on my shoulder. Turned on the faucet. Pulled my hand and rinsed it carefully. Until it was completely clean and still kept this position. Warm breath hit the back of my neck. Flooded with tingly itch. I looked at the mirror in his half-lowered eyes, long eyelashes fluttering appearance. Resigned to start coaxing. I tickled his palm. Can I touch my little vinegar bun now? Barely. Ethan's mouth was unforgiving. But his head was rubbing into my palm out of habit. It's a shame that I made him angry again so soon after he had been coaxed. I nestled into Ethan's arms and just casually asked why he was wearing sunglasses tonight. But he paused. And the strength of his grip on my fingers tightened. It was a long time before he spoke in a muffled voice. Discomfort. I was startled and immediately sat up straight. My tone anxious. What's wrong with your eyes? Did you go to the hospital? If not, I will accompany you now. Ethan not only didn't appreciate it, but sank his face. His ink-colored eyes penetrated with a coldness that I had never seen before. Are you that concerned about these eyes of mine? I was a little confused by the statement and froze for a moment before affirming it back to him. Of course I'm concerned. 2 years ago, Ethan got into a fight with some guys in a bar who were trying to make a move on me for me. And although he got the upper hand, he got smashed over the head with a bottle and received several stitches. When I woke up, surprisingly, my vision started to blur. Which freaked me out. And the doctor said it depended on my own recovery. Luckily, this symptom only lasted for half a month and Ethan's eyes are still clear and healthy. But still, we can't rule out the problem of future after effects. Now that I heard him say that his eyes were not feeling well, I was of course worried. Ethan, however, blushed even more and for the first time slammed the door in my face. The slamming of the door was loud and harsh. And I was confused where I was. Not wanting to coax for the first time. Ethan and I were having silent treatment again. Silent treatment for no reason at all, in my opinion. I froze for a while at my workstation. And Emily came forward and looked at me blearily. Ran. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Recently, Ethan didn't come to pick me up from the office. And she was craving for CP candies. So she danced to the front of the main event. I glanced at her and looked sickly. No. Emily had a bigger reaction than me. The person in question. And didn't know what she had brainstormed. As if the sky had collapsed. Her voice shaking uncharacteristically. Morning, sister. You guys, should not split. Split. No. Hearing this, I interrupted her with some annoyance. I have never thought of breaking up with Ethan. I never thought of breaking up with Ethan. I said so. But thinking about his recent reaction, I was a bit hesitant. With all my frustration and doubts, I looked at Emily with a curious look on my face and couldn't help but ask her for advice. If your boyfriend is always angry with you recently for no reason, what would be the reason for silent treatment? What would be the best way to deal with it? Emily's eyes widened. How could he do this to you? This time she stopped shipping couples and slapped the table. Looking very angry. What else could it be? Cold violence for no reason. He just wants to break up. He's the same as my ex-boyfriend. You just think he is too spoiled at his young age. If I say he wants silent treatment, let him be. And leave him alone for a while. But I'm afraid Ethan will cry. His eyes are like a pair of wolf cubs. But he has lost his arrogance to you alone. And his tearful eyes are always heartbreaking. Emily also swore on the sidelines. In my many years of experience, this trick works best. To keep him no longer dare to be unreasonable. I was skeptical. as the girl was only in her early 20s. Where do you get your years of experience? Of course. It's my years of experience in reading novels. I was half convinced. 5 whole days went by without Ethan and I contacting each other. This was the longest silent treatment we had ever had. I couldn't help myself. I'd better take the initiative to soften him up. Maybe my little friend is hiding somewhere crying right now. I made the decision to rush to Ethan's school as soon as I got off work. Liam blocked me downstairs again for the 5th time since he found out I had a boyfriend. What he said in the last 5 days has a higher check rate than his undergraduate thesis. Right? Ran. Let's make up. I know you only got that boyfriend to piss me off. I haven't been in touch with Suzwa for a long time. That night was just a mistake. Let's forget about it. Okay? Besides, we've been childhood sweethearts for so many years. I know you can't forget me. Look. I even bought your favorite red roses. Looking at Liam's ordinary and confident face, I couldn't hold back my passionate output. Reconciliation? I haven't seen you for a few years. But I didn't realize that you still have the habit of being a third party. There are no mirrors in the house. There's always urine. From hair to toes. You're not even close to my boyfriend. To piss you off? It's been 3 years. Your wrinkles have deepened. But your brain has deteriorated. You're even better than a 3-year-old. Also, I don't like red roses anymore. Including you. When I caught you and Sue Rowe lying on the red roses covered couple's bed. Now. Will you fuck off? Liam chokes and blushes. But still cheekily refuses to go. You can have the flowers. And it'll be gone in a minute. Are you serious? He nodded. Okay. I was in a hurry to go back to coax people. A hand took the flowers in his hand to go. But was caught off guard by him close to brush the tips of his hair. Before I had time to attack him and back away. As promised. Just before leaving I vaguely saw the corner of his mouth raised a weird smile. I didn't think much about it. I directly transferred the flowers to the cleaning auntie of the company. And headed to the parking spot. But on the way, I received a long-lost message from Ethan. 4 simple words. But made my heart skip a beat. We broke up. In fact, this is not the first time Ethan temper tantrums with me to mention the breakup. Just before are mentioned in person. There are a lot of reasons for breaking up. I looked at a few more handsome. Forgot a certain anniversary. Too busy at work and missed the date. Ethan always lost his temper. You don't love me at all. Let's break up. But he was the one who proposed to break up. And he was the one who looked like he was afraid of being dumped. And he looked like he would cry for me if I dared to say yes. I was afraid of his crying. So I always softened up and coaxed him right away. Ethan is also very easy to coax. Just need to kiss and hug and say only love him. Only this time. I'm not so sure. There is no meeting. Not even a phone call. Only the screen cannot see the slightest emotion of the 4 words. The last message was still 5 days ago, I miss babe. But now it has become a breakup notice. Thinking about his temperamental mood repetitions these days. Maybe it's really as Emily said that he's laying the groundwork for a breakup. Maybe teenage love just comes and goes so fast. And 2 years is too long for a 21-year-old to get bored with a woman 5 years older than him. Maybe he's celebrating that he finally got rid of my girlfriend who was always bossing him around. Does he really want me this time? Will he still be able to make it work? Will there be countless next times after this one? Would it be better to separate from each other for a while? I am suddenly a little tired. Looking at the quiet dialogue box. I slowly typed a word and pressed the send button. Good. I tossed my phone aside and looked at the Lucky Charm Ethan had begged for me floating in front of the car window. Only to feel my vision suddenly blur. The breakup was a lot harder than expected. It was clear that we had only been together for 2 years. But Ethan seemed to have infiltrated every aspect of my life. He learned to cook for me. He held me in his arms to watch a movie. He prepared gifts for me on every big and small holiday. He waited downstairs at the company to pick me up from work early. He rubbed the tip of my nose and asked for a kiss before going to sleep. He who has all sorts of emotions floating around in his head whenever he is idle. In order to keep myself busy, I took the initiative to take over a business trip that none of my colleagues wanted to go on. When I came back again, it was already a week after the breakup. Just in time for the tail end of the Mid-Autumn Festival. When I dragged my suitcase back to my parents' house, my mom was waiting at the door with a smile on her face, and looked behind me when she saw me. I looked for a long time, but I didn't see anyone. I washed my hands and sat down at the dinner table. But I didn't escape my mom's questioning. Where's Ozawa? Why isn't he here with you? Even my father, who didn't smile, looked at me, not saying a word, but his eyes expressed the same meaning as my mom. What a change. I remember the first time I brought Ethan home was also mid-autumn. The two members of the family looked at the obviously young and youthful teenager and were shocked. Although they didn't say anything on the surface, I could tell that they didn't approve of it. I didn't really want to bring Ethan to meet the parents so early. But my little friend said he had never experienced the feeling of spending a holiday with his family. The eyes and tone of his voice were so despondent that it was heartbreaking and compassionate. I will spend every Mid-Autumn Festival with you from now on. And you can think of my family as yours. That was how I hugged him and promised. Now that my mom and dad have treated him as half a son, I broke my promise. Breaking up. I thought I could act calm. But a few choked sobs spilled out of my mouth. At that, my mom became anxious. Zay listens to you so well. How could he break up with you? Did you bully him? Here. Don't know, still think Ethan is her biological. I'm not sure if I want to be wrongly accused or if I desperately need someone to find a reason for me to be dumped. So I'm going to tell you the truth about what happened on the day of the silent treatment. My mom listened to the wide-eyed, like suddenly remembered what. With my father looked at a glance. Revealed a chagrin look. Oops. It's all my fault for talking too much that day. My mom slapped her thighs. What day? Mom? What are you talking about? I wondered. It was the day you brought Sawa home for the first time. At first glance, his almond-shaped eyes looked like Liam's, with a mole at the corner of his eye. So I misunderstood, thinking that you were still thinking about him after you broke up with Liam. So I dragged your dad to the kitchen to tell him that you might be in love with Liam, and that you found a rebound. Just after I finished, I saw Ozawa walking towards the kitchen. Your dad and I saw that his expression didn't change much and thought he didn't hear it. But I didn't realize that not only did he hear it, but he also held it in his mind for a year and didn't say anything to me. I'm not sure if you're a good person, but I'm a good person. Mom, how do you make up your own mind? My youth-sized eyes, nose and mouth are better looking than his. So what's the resemblance? I was furious and got up in a hurry. I realized why Ethan's temper had changed since that day. And he was always throwing tantrums that puzzled me. The countless silent treatments. The sunglasses he wore when he came to pick me up. The anger in his eyes when I cared about him. Turned out to be the problem. Dad. Mom. I'm leaving first. I took the cell phone on the fast step to go out. Closed the door before coming behind my mom's answering voice. Go. Reunion dinner is fine for tomorrow. On the drive to Ethan, I called him a number of times, all of which went unanswered. I arrived at the studio the band had rented just as the door was left open and the other 4 guys in the band were sitting on the couch in the parlor. Olivia was talking, with an indignant look on her face. If you ask me, Ethan just deserved it. Lightran was so nice to him and he broke up with him. Now he's locking himself up in his room and torturing himself for no one to see. You can't say that. Maybe there is some misunderstanding. Brother you has been locked up for 2 days. He doesn't see anyone. He doesn't eat anything. I'm really afraid that something will happen. Yes. Why don't we call MS? Karen? I thought brother you didn't allow it. I stood in the doorway. My heart tightened. And I accidentally bumped into the iron door and made a noise. The 4 of them turned their heads in unison to look at me. Their voices so surprised that it was as if they had found a life-saving straw. Sister Karen. I only nodded in greeting. After learning about the past few days from them, I went up to the 2nd floor to Ethan's closed room door. Just as I pushed the door open, A glass bottle smashed over and shattered into pieces at my feet. Get out. A man's raspy, huffy growl came from not far away, only to end abruptly. The smell of alcohol and smoke hit me, making me dizzy, and I couldn't help but frown. Ethan quit smoking once he knew I didn't like the smell of smoke. And even this studio was expressly forbidden. There were no lights on in the room, and the curtains were drawn tightly shut, leaving it pitch black. Only a few rays of light filtered in through the door, allowing me to barely see the man sitting on the floor with his legs bent at the waist. There were many cigarettes and bottles scattered around, and Ethan was sitting in the center, staring blankly at me, as if a glint of light had flashed under his red-blooded eyes. And then he quickly dropped his head, as if I had never appeared. I walked over to him, squatted in front of him, and tried to take his hand. But my fingertips just touched the back of his hand and were dodged. We've broken up. Ethan's icy voice was in my ears. I treated it as if I didn't hear it, and my dangling hand fell smoothly as I bent over to brace myself on his sides. The distance was so close that I could touch the tip of his nose with a slight tilt of my head. This time, the person in front of me didn't hide. I tilted my head and came a little closer, hearing the man's aggravated breathing as I wished. At the moment when I was almost on the verge of kissing him, I inclined my head and smiled at the 4 people who were lying on the doorframe watching the fun. Kids, wanna learn how Babe coaxes her boyfriend? The 3 boys other than Olivia's face exploded red, and you pushed and shoved your way out of the room in a quick escape, with Olivia, who was slow to follow, thoughtfully closing the door for me and giving me a silent thumbs up. I laughed at their amusement, the corners of my mouth lifting in an arc before I could fall. But then I heard Ethan retort chirpily, "I'm not your boyfriend." Well, not then, I responded in response to his words. But Ethan's face turned pale at the answer, his wolf pup-like eyes red. "Does your throat hurt? Do you want some water?" "None of your business." I sighed, looked at his bloodless and skinned mouth, and got up, ready to pour him a glass of warm water to moisten his throat. Just as I half stood up, my waist suddenly tightened, and I fell unsteadily onto Ethan's body. Ethan wrapped me in his arms and buried his head in the crook of my neck. His raspy voice almost panicked. "Don't leave." Before I could say anything, I felt the wetness on the nape of my neck. My heart trembled. "I'm not leaving. I just want to go get you a glass of water." Ethan, however, acted as if he hadn't heard me, and his emotions were already out of control. "Liar. You just said you were going to coax me. You're leaving again. You don't want me anymore when he comes to get back together with you." "Babe, I don't want it. I don't want to break up. I like to be under your control. I like it very much. I can be beaten and scolded. But don't leave me. 12 days. I'm going crazy. Rebound. Rebound is fine. I will never lose my temper because of this. You coax me. Just coax me." The fabric around his shoulders and neck was mostly soaked with tears, and Ethan's voice was getting lower and lower. It was as if he was willing to gather up all his thorns for me, revealing the softest and most vulnerable parts of his body. Somewhere in my chest was so sore that it swelled and ached, and I blamed myself and my heart ached. So I quickly turned and cupped his face, coaxing as I wiped away the tears. "Not rebound. Not rebound. Not a rebound. My Ethan is unique and has never been anyone's rebound. Mom and Dad said that because they misunderstood. In the 2 years I've been with you, I've never thought of anyone else. All I can think about is whether my kids are happy, whether they've eaten properly, whether they're healthy or not. Ethan, I love you. I love you the most. I've said that many times. Right? You can take it seriously for the rest of your life." My tone was serious. Ethan looked at me with red eyes and teardrops on his long eyelashes. "Really? It's true. Don't cry. Okay?" After a long time, Ethan sniffled and rubbed his face wine-like into my hand. "Give me a hug." I breathed a sigh of relief that I'd finally gotten it right. "Is a hug enough? Do you want a kiss?" The teenager's eyes lit up, but after a pause he shook his head. I smoked. "You don't like it. I froze a little, not expecting him to remember that. I laughed softly and pinched his earlobe, getting a little closer and speaking in an airy voice. Good boy. Close your eyes. Babe wants a kiss. Lightly wrinkled eyebrows. Wet corners of the eyes. The bridge of the nose. And then fall on the cool lips. For a long time, the person underneath me finally made a move, wrapping me into his arms, gently biting my lower lip and turning against me. The gnawing action is more fierce and ferocious than ever, and it seems to suck me into the bone marrow. As my body went limp, Ethan's somewhat sticky murmur came to my ear. Babe, I love you so much. After saying these words, the person who was holding me tightly in his arms a second ago suddenly loosened his grip. Ethan's head leaned on my shoulder. His left hand interlocked with my fingers. His eyes were closed and his breathing was calm. So he actually fell asleep like this. I inclined my head to look at him. I can only see the light trembling long eyelashes. High and straight nose. Vaguely still some baby fat side face. I exhaled a few deep breaths to calm the fire provoked by someone. Did not hold back the anger like scraping his nose. I heard a grunt, but did not wake up. I can't help but laugh. Let him lean. Afraid of waking people, did not move again. I don't know how long. My shoulders are vaguely sore. I moved my neck slightly, and saw a bright light from the screen of a cell phone not far away. It was Ethan's cell phone, and I hadn't wanted to look at it. But after that message, a few more popped up in quick succession. The cell phone screen was brightly lit in the darkened room, and I didn't hold back, reaching for the phone to fingerprint it to unlock it. No wonder you had to wear sunglasses that night. Your eyes are very much like mine. You know it yourself, right? Ran only stayed with you to piss me off. Now that I'm back, you should be a little self-aware as a rebound. The red roses I gave Ran. She really likes them. Ran has agreed to get back together with me, and she will settle her relationship with you tonight. A dozen anonymous text messages and intentionally misplaced photos. No need to think to know who is sent. The message box scratched to the end. Is just sent a few photos. My parents and his family. Around my family dinner table to talk to each other. Looking at the time. Had arrived at my house just as ID left. I clicked on the pictures and looked at Liam, who was grinning sickeningly at the camera in the pictures. And my eyes flared up. If I hadn't come to Ethan today, what would have happened if it hadn't been me who saw the message? But the man himself. I couldn't even begin to think about it. Previously. Because my parents and Liam's parents are good friends for many years. So Liam did the dirty things I did not tear face to tell both parents. Just said that the feelings of discord and separated. I didn't realize that a moment of weakness 3 years ago had turned into the knife he uses to stab people today. Babe. Hearing Ethan's soft call, I woke up as if from a dream and realized that my grip on my hand was getting tighter and tighter because I was too angry. I quickly loosened it and rubbed it for him. Did I wake you? Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. What are you looking at? Looking at his newly awakened good behavior. I froze for a moment and suddenly got the urge to tease. I held my cell phone in front of him and waved it in front of my face, with a smile on the end of my voice. Check up on me. My little friend is always angry with me and wants to break up with me. Maybe he is hiding a little demon outside, waiting to kick me to give her a title. Ethan woke up in a daze, and after a few seconds he realized what I was talking about, and immediately became anxious. I'm not. I raised an eyebrow and held his face in my hands to his eyes. My tone serious. Would you be sad if I broke up with you? As soon as the words left his mouth, Ethan's eyes instantly reddened. I don't want to. It's just an assumption. No hypothesizing. I wiped the tears that bled from the corners of the man's eyes and sighed. Are you made of water? Such a crybaby. Ethan stares at me for an instant, the ends of his eyes drooping. I was wrong. Huh? I'll never mention breaking up again. And neither will you. Okay. Ethan's perspective. The first time I met Sophia was at a bar. It was the first day of my residency at the bar with my newly formed band. The bar was newly opened. The location was not good. Even at night there were only a few people in the bar. Sophia was one of them. She and the bar owner were friends. And they always chatted next to each other. I don't know if it's just me, but the two of them would occasionally look in my direction while they were laughing. The unintentional glances made my heart beat like a drum. As the days went by, we were able to have a few words. When did you like Sophia? I forget. The first time I saw her. I was amazed. The first time I got along with her. Or the first time I was encouraged by her as a listener and my heart skipped a beat. Sophia is bright but not cold. And the smile that always curves at the corner of her mouth makes people come closer to her. Not only me. The rest of the band was more or less attracted to her. It's just that the 5-year gap between the two of us makes us shy away from her. I was actually reluctant to call Sophia babe. The two words that stood between us. A constant reminder of the gap between me and her. Until one day when I bumped into a hitchhiker calling her that. Sophia's brow rose in obvious amusement. And it turned out she liked it. Since that day, I've been calling Sophia babe. She froze for a few seconds. Then couldn't hide the smile under her eyes. Stroking my head and praising me for being good. She complimented me on being good and touched me. I buried my head and clenched my fists for a long time before I could stop the corners of my mouth from rising and calm my racing heart. I looked up. Only to see Olivia looking at me with disgust. She likes babe too. I know. I walked past her with a cold face and heard her say 3 words. Manipulative guy. I don't really understand it. But it's probably not a good word. I don't care what anyone other than babe thinks. So let's call her names. And let's just say I'm the first person babe looks at. The day I was hit on the head with a bottle. I woke up and confessed my love to babe. I knew it was a bit mean. Taking advantage of her sympathy and gratitude. I couldn't wait. There were too many people who liked babe. And I was afraid I'd be just a flicker in her life. Luckily, she said yes and was so nice to me. So nice that I couldn't help but be flattered. And I loved being cajoled by babe as if I was the only one she could see. I'd rather just be coaxed by her for the rest of my life than hear Uncle and Auntie Song talking in the kitchen. Am I just rebound? Just rebound No wonder she spoils me so much. I don't dare to ask. I don't dare to show my emotions. I'm afraid that after I talk about it, I'll get the result of separation. Which is something I can't bear. Just pretend not to hear it. Babe still loves me the most. I always comfort myself like this. But I can't help thinking about it. I began to lose control of my emotions. Began to use all kinds of reasons silent treatment to break up. Trying to use this way to get more attention and intimacy. Trying to prove that she loves me. Not someone else. Until that person appeared. He put me for their own woven lies completely punctured. With just a few words. I fell for his provocations. In order to keep what little self-respect I had. I broke up with babe before she decided she didn't want me. I was mentally prepared. But the moment I saw the word yes, I regretted it. Obviously. She used to coax me. But this time, she really agreed. I was heartbroken. Thinking she really didn't want me. I used to think that drinking to drown my sorrows was the most useless thing to do. But when it really happened to me, I didn't know how to spend these difficult days other than shutting myself up in my room and torturing myself. I thought it would be a long time before babe came to see me. She told me that I wasn't rebound. And that I was loved the most in the world. I didn't dare to believe her. But this time, I wanted to spend my whole life to validate her words. And I would never push her away again. A week after the reconciliation, I was picking up babe from work when I overheard some gossip. It was about Liam, who had sent him an email containing actual evidence of his previous infidelity and disgusting statements about his attempts to meddle in his ex-girlfriend's love affair. And now there was a lot of talk about it among the employees of both companies. Liam has left the company. Perhaps not even the city. Because he's not happy. Happy now? I hummed as babe poked at the corners of my mouth that couldn't help but rise. Do you still feel like you're his rebound? I shook my head. My heart pumping like a shaken soda bottle. So much so that I couldn't help but hug babe tightly into my arms. Babe. I love you so much. I know. I love you too. End of article.